Hi guys, welcome back to My Opinion. This is episode 4 of the relaunch, or season 4 if you guys listened to my previous 3 seasons. Thank you for that. Today is Maya's Monday motivation on My Opinion. Yes, it's a lot of alliteration, but I love it. And I am definitely still going to do interviews with some amazing women, and thank you guys for listening to those. But I have heard you guys, and you want to hear from me and about some interesting topics. And like my teaser said, or I teased on the teaser, and I'm going to start with what is your why, because that's how I start my conversations with my teams, whether it's a new team or a team like I'm taking over or a team I'm building from scratch, a team that I'm recruiting, whatever the case may be. In my opinion, it's best to start in your first conversation asking, what is your why? Why do I start with that question? Well, I think if you understand what your why is, then you can really be motivated to achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve at any point in your life. And I know that's really vague, so we're going to dive really deep into that. But your why can change. Your why can evolve. And it's okay if you don't know your why right now, but it's really important that you're asking yourself, why am I doing this? Why do I want this? Why is this important to me? And you're asking yourself all these questions. I remember when one of the best mentors I've ever had asked me that for the first time. And I didn't really know the answer to that. I remember thinking, what is my why? Like, I'm going to work. Like, that's my why. I need to pay my bills. Like, that's my why. So it was very surface, my answer. That resonated with me. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know why I'm actually doing this. Like, then my answer became, well, money. Like, I want to make a lot of money, which is a typical sales type person answer. And we're going to talk about the different buckets because I've actually categorized the different type of what is your why answers, because I believe that there are different types of whys. But I said money, like money, I want to make a lot of money, that's great. Well, why did I want to make a lot of money? That's not important to everybody. Not everybody wants to make a lot of money, and I hadn't really thought about that. And so we discussed that and dug a little bit deeper. And this all didn't happen in one conversation, right? But some of it did. And this was in my early 20s. And so I really hadn't had a super strong mentor, let alone a strong female mentor. And I started to think about why money was my motivating factor, not just going to work and like working and so I could pay for stuff that I needed and or wanted and nice things, right? So I wanted to make a lot of money because I wanted to provide for myself. Okay, started to think about that. I wanted to be independent. Okay, but why? And my mentor pushed me more and more on this. And I started to discover that the reason that this was so important to me is because in my youth, I watched my mother struggle. We didn't really have consistency in my home financially. And that was a problem. And that stayed with me. And so money was my why. It was a motivator for me. I wanted to be independent. I wanted freedom. I never wanted to have to rely on anybody. When I finally did have a relationship, I wanted it to be a choice. I wanted to be able to be with whomever I wanted to be with. I wanted to have the life that I wanted. And then my why continued to evolve, right? I wanted to have a fulfilling career where I made really good money. Money was still my why though. But why money still? I wanted to buy a home. Why did I want to buy a home? I wanted financial freedom. I wanted to buy the car that I wanted. Why? Why? So I had to keep digging deeper. It's not just as easy as a one-line answer, and your why can evolve. It does. My why now at 33 is not the same why that I had when I was 22, 23, first answering these questions. My why now is much deeper, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But a lot of people ask me, where does this question of why come from? So this is nothing earth-shattering, right? This question goes around on LinkedIn. You see it everywhere. You see it on sales blogs. Leaders talk about it all the time. This is a question going around everywhere. Self-help books talk about it. Find out what your why is. So why do I ask this when I'm first engaging with a team, whether I've just hired somebody or I'm taking over a team? Because I find it is the fastest, deepest, most amazing way to build a connection with someone and learn how to effectively motivate them. I don't want to say manage because I don't really believe in that. Learn how to bond with them and learn how to motivate them quickly. I find in one conversation, and having this conversation with them, I can learn more about them than I might learn about them the entire time I work with them. So that's why I think this is so important. So why do I feel that way? Why do I feel like I can learn so much? Because what motivates one person is not going to motivate the other person. Now, are there typical trends in a sales environment? And is typically salespeople are motivated. Like, I'm a typical salesperson. I'm motivated by money, right? Why I'm motivated by money is not going to be the same reason why Susie over here is motivated by money, right? So it's important to continue to dive deeper. In my opinion, that is what I have found, because then I'm able to motivate and push those individuals in a positive way and help them achieve their goals and keep them happy. Finding out your why is so important. And my why today in 2019 might be totally different than my why in 90 days, in a year, next year, when I'm here talking to you. And I think that's cool. I think that's amazing. I find that these whys tend to fall into buckets. That's just me, right? Again, this is nothing earth-shattering. People have talked about this. I'm not the first person talking about it. I'll definitely not be the last person talking about it. But these are my tips. This is my opinion. This is what I found. So when I ask this question, one answer I'll get is family, right? What is your why? Family. My children, my husband, my fur babies, whatever it is, I love it, right? I love when somebody answers about their family, right? Or maybe it's their mom or their dad. They're taking care of their parents or their grandparents or whatever it is. I love it. Family is a great why because it's a beautiful bond, a great home life, a great bond there is going to keep you motivated to keep going, right? To provide for them. So I know as a leader, if that is your why, what can I do, right? I'm thinking, what can I do to keep this person happy and motivated at work? What is going to motivate them? One, they need to be able to provide for their family, typically, right? Unless they're just really lucky. But typically they're there to work to provide for their family and create experiences for their family and to be able to give their family the things that they need. So one, I know that's important to them. Done. Click. Figured it out. The next thing, I know that they're going to want a work-life balance. If family is their why, again, whatever the case may be, maybe they're a single mom or dad, or they've got 12 kids, whatever it is, if family is their why, they're not going to want to spend an 80-hour to 100-hour work week. So we have to come up with a plan so that they can effectively do a 40 to 50-hour work week and be completely present in their work, and then they can be completely present at home. I know that's a motivating factor for them. And that I can effectively mentor and motivate, and they can successfully do their job and be successful in their home life as well. And that's why asking your why to this type of individual works. And it's so effective. It's the easiest one to ask the why to, so I really appreciate that one. That one's awesome. So money. The Maya monies, right? The people who answer money. So here you typically have to dig a little bit deeper because money's great, but there's typically, like my example, there's typically a reason why you're saying money. You have a goal. You want financial freedom. You want to travel. You want to buy a home, a car, a dream car, whatever your next, pay off your debt, pay off your student loans. What is it that you're trying to achieve? Why is money important to you? Maybe there's something from your past. Maybe you want to go that deep. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's not that deep. Maybe you just want to provide. Maybe you want to provide for your family. I don't know, but money's important for a reason. So we've got to dig deeper with our money people. But we also know now as a leader how we motivate that person. Great. So Susie Q Sales Girl, I always use Susie Q. I think it's cute. Anyway, I know if that person is willing to share that goal with me, it's early in our relationship, right? But if they share that with me, great. If not, if they answer money, I still can use that as their motivating factor in our mentor relationship and help them understand that, great, well, we have this incentive program, we have this program, this is how you can achieve your goals, this is how you can surpass your goals, here you are on your path. It helps me plan everything for them and helps me motivate them. And then as our relationship grows, I still understand their why. I still would know what helps them tick. And hopefully at some point during our relationship, most of the time it happens, 9 out of 10 times it does, I understand why they're money motivated. And that's imperative to the relationship for a money motivated person. These are typically salespeople too, or people who want to be promoted to a higher level in the company. So people who are the cause. So people who answer, what is your why with a cause? So these are people who work for like nonprofits or, tend to volunteer a lot. So they might not actually work at one of those places, but they volunteer at those places in their free time. This is why I was saying your why can evolve, because I actually do that now. I do volunteer and make time for that. So my whys have shifted a little bit, right? I volunteer at the Humane Society in my sleep. I'm not really sure when I find time to do that. But so these people, right, for instance, like they care about animals, so they're volunteering at the Humane Society. We like here in Atlanta, the American Cancer Society is big, so there's a lot of fundraisers for that. So for example, people would be into March of Dimes, things like that. So these people, you really have to motivate them by understanding what's important to them, what cause is important to them. They'll typically tell you, and they'll say, well, this is important to me because, my sibling suffered from this, or my grandmother passed away from this, or something, they'll share that with you at some point. And then you will motivate them by a company initiative or something that they can contribute to, or maybe they create a company initiative or we participate in something. That's important to them. So that's a motivating factor for them, and making sure that you can collaborate with them on that and include them, because then they feel heard and important. That's what I found has worked. But I also really find it important with these people that, money's not really important to them always. So when the cause is their number one why. So like you'll find people working at nonprofits and they're not compensated what they should be. Teachers are even an example of a cause, right? Because they believe in education. And so they work in the school system and are not compensated what they should be. They're just not. They should be compensated completely differently. When I'm coaching these individuals, it's important to remind them that they are a why as well, and they need to be compensated based off of, what they are looking, how are they going to support themselves? How are they going to support the lifestyle that they want, so that they can give back to the cause? Because if you don't take care of yourself first, you can't take care of others. And that's something that I find the cause individuals need to be reminded of. And sometimes your full-time job can't give that to you, so that's something to help them understand and mentor them on. So that's kind of a side note for them. Our product and service people. So this is a why that I don't know everybody talks about, but these are our cheerleaders. So people who are working for the company and they just love the product or they love the service that you're providing. Whatever it is that your company is selling or providing, or whatever it is that you do. A company can be a service, a software platform, an actual physical, tangible product, food or beverage, whatever it is, a restaurant, whatever it is. And maybe they just love the actual product. That's great. I just love, I've heard this one. I hear a couple of my past employees in my head right now saying this. I just love the product. I used to wear it when I was a girl. Or I just love the product. I wore it all through college. Or I just love the food. I've eaten here for years. That's great. But that passion, so they're going to be your biggest cheerleaders. They're going to be your biggest marketers. They're going to blast you on social media. That's amazing. That's amazing. We need those people everywhere. And I don't know that we always think about that why. But I would say something similar to them as our cause people. They need to remember themselves, because there's a reason that they're passionate about that product. When they were using that product or that service, what about themselves did they like? What ties back to that? What about that time in their life was important? And how does that tie into their why now? What brought them from that time period to now? Like, did they work in the, let's say, this particular product that you're selling was important to them. Say you're selling a drink or something, right? And they drank it all through college and they love it, and now they're selling it. Well, that got them through college and they always struggled through school. So that would be an impactful story to share with their customer. And maybe they're not thinking about that. Maybe they are. They're a cheerleader for your product. So they need to dive a little bit deeper. And that got them to their career. That got them to the next level. That is a part of their why. That's why they're working for this brand. That's why they have this job. And it's bringing them to the next level. So they have to dive a little bit deeper. And why are they doing this job? Yeah, you have to pay your bills, but like, what's their goal? What's their next step? Do they want to move up in the company? Would they like to do something with this? Would they like to build their own company? They have to think about that and dive a little bit deeper. So another why is people. Some people just love people. And I find this with salespeople. I find this with leadership, mentors. This is one of my whys. So like, again, my why has evolved. Your why will always evolve too. So that's why it's good to check in and do a temperature check. And also with your people, do temperature checks. Again, one of my best mentors, this was another mentor. He would always tell me, he's like, let's do a temperature check. This would happen like every 30 to 90 days. He would do 30 to 90 days, he would do a temperature check. And I thought it was so silly at the time. You know, when you're in your 20s, you're just like, whatever. Now I look back on this stuff, I'm like, oh, that's great knowledge. Let me take that. Let me take this. So in my opinion, this was great. He would do a temperature check, but he was definitely that was his why, was people. And obviously one of my whys is people now. So you really just love mentoring people, helping people. You get a lot of satisfaction out of watching people grow and move into different positions and achieve their dreams and the things that, you know, fulfill their whys, which is great. And that's something I love and something I'm passionate about. How to kind of coach and mentor someone like this is also to help them remember what is their why, and going back to because you can't just be a people person. That can't be the only gratifying thing. You also have your own whys too. So you've got to align that. And really remember, like, why are you doing this? And what, you know, really to kind of get a little more niche into those things. It's important. And if you're not taking care of yourself, so that brings me to the conclusion of this. And the best answer for what is your why is you. That is the first answer everyone should have. And it's never the answer. I've never answered that. But after doing this exercise for a long time, I consistently have done it for 5 years, maybe longer. I'd say 8 years I've done it, but consistently for 5. But I don't think I've ever heard anybody answer, like, I'm my why. I will tell you now, everybody should be answering. Number 1 is you. The next are all of these. And typically people are a hybrid of one of these, right? So family, money, a cause, product or service, and then people. But the number 1 is you. Because if you're not taking care of yourself and you're not your why, and you don't have you taken care of, who cares about any of these other whys? And that might sound really harsh, but in my opinion, you have to take care of you so that you can really go after your other whys, because you are the most important why out there. And that's why I ask this question at the beginning of every single one of my team beginnings, takeover, whatever it is that I'm doing, because that individual needs to know that they are the most important person in their life, because if you don't take care of you, no one else is. So what is your why? Think about it. Share it with me. You can find me on Instagram at Maya Roffler, or you can find me on Facebook at MaYapinion Podcast. Of course, you can listen to this on iTunes. We are also on Spotify too, both at MaYapinion Podcast. I hope you guys listen next week too. It'll be another topic. If you guys want to hear me talk about a certain leadership topic, let me know. I'm going to continue talking about who, what, when, where, why, because I think that's so important. But opening with why really opens that entire conversation. Thanks again for listening, guys. Happy holidays. Have a great holiday season, and I'll see you next Monday.